Hi all, so welcome to this channel, and in this video session I'll discuss AS400 interview question. So this is part 20 video. Let's start with the questions one by one. First question is CL command to find dependent file. So yes, we can find the dependent files over a file. So let's say there is a pf and we have some dependent lfs. So we can trace out those file name using a command dspdbr display database relationships. So that command will list out all the logical files which are dependent over that pf physical file. So the command name is dspdbr. When the referential constraints executed, so unique constraint, as I know that they are executed on at the time of insert into the file, and referential constraint were executed at the time of insert, update and delete. So all these three operations would cause this differential constraint to be executed, which is there applied there on that file. The third question is why we use declare cursor statement. So as we all know, to for any cursor, first thing is to declare that cursor, then um, open that cursor, then fetch from the cursor, and then fetch next from cursor, and if it, or then close that cursor. So declare cursor is an statement which is the first point for declaring a cursor. So declare cursor means uh, we are defining a cursor, we are giving it a name, and we are specifying what all records to be fetched. So this purpose, this declare cursor statement serves, that is, it define the name, it define that cursor, it also specify what all records has to be first when we are declaring this cursor. Next question is which cl command can be used at runtime to redirect the file name in an rpg program. So very simple. So we have a command over dbf over dbf which we can use in the cl program to redirect a file name in an rpg program. So if we have used, let's say, file name dynamic file in an rpg program, and we can here in cl, before calling that, we can override that file with the uh, one which we want. So let's say we have overriding this time with the file one, let's say another time with file one member, some member 2, member 3, and so on. So we can basically redirect the file name at the runtime. So that command over dbf is used for this purpose. Next thing is um, what is the length of variable. So these are the variable definitions which are defined here. So the first thing is declare variable one, and type is char. So for character type, we basically the default length is, because we have not provided the length here, so the default length is 32. So in cl program, the default length is 32, which we can even pass from the command line. And for decimal, we have a default length of 15 comma 5, 15 decimal 5. So 32 and 15 decimal 5 are the results here. Now next question is what is the disadvantage of using global variable. So as we all know, in our system we have different types of variable, that's either a local variable or a global variable or even a parameter. That parameter too seems to me as as it comes in as a place to a local variable. So basically um, let me explain with some another view or another example. So if we have a procedure, let's say, procedure one which performs some specific function, and there's a whole set of procedures in our RPG program, or let's say in our service program. So if we have declared a global variable and we have used that variable at several places on in the procedures, so what happened, we have basically made that variable global, and we are using that variable in several procedures, so we do not know at which point that variable got changed or which procedure actually changed that global variable, so that we cannot keep the trace of the global variable, that when it is getting affected and when who is affecting that global variable. So in a long run, I would say this would harm the system and the further development as well. So global variable have a several disadvantage, so we prefer to use local variables as much as possible. So that's what the main thing which I have to convey here, because global variables are bad and they must not used. The next question is, if we try to move year part of star ISO date into a field of length 3, what is the output? So for star ISO date, we have a year in the as a 4 length. So if we try to move it into the 3 length 3 variable, the program got crashed. The next question is how to avoid using indicators in ILE. So there are some BIFs which we can use, like percentile found, percentile if record is found, percentile not percentile found, and percentile end of file, not percentile end of file, percentile BOF, not percentile BOF, etc. These are the BIFs which we can use to avoid indicators in ILE RPG programming. Edit code for suppressing leading zeros. Next question is this one. So for suppressing the leading zeros, we have edit code Z which we can use. And the next question is edit code for date fields. For date field we will be using edit code Y. And next questions are, can we use edit code on character field? So I would say we cannot use edit code on a character field. And can we use edit code on numeric field? Yes. So if we cannot use it on the character field, we can use it on numeric field. That's why we are suppressing the leading zeros in the above questions. So we can only apply that on numeric field. Now how we can validate input values in DSPF? So whatever the values which we are inputting into the DSPF, we can validate that using some keywords like range, like values, like comp. So these are the keywords which we can use to compare values which we are inputting into the DSPF. So we do not need to go to the program itself. What is the difference between view and index? So these are let me explain you. View is something which basically displays the data of a table. So it could be either full data or some columns. So it depends, or some rows. So it depends what query we have used in the view. But index is something which is you can say which is an access path. So when we create an index on some columns, so that creates a access path on that file. To access that column, to access that the values of that column in a more high so that the performance got increased. But now if we want to increase the performance, so there could be chances that if we want to try to insert the record into the index, into the file, when the indexes are there, then it would take some time on insert, update or delete. So that's a drawback as well. So we need to decide when to use index, when to go for index or not. So basically it depends upon the data, how much data that file kept. So if a file is a huge file which keeps uh, millions of records, then we should go for the index, because in that case, and if we are searching, we are doing thorough searching on that file, or so we should go for index. Either if it's a short file that is less records, we should avoid that, because it basically affects the insert, update, or delete performance. So view in IBM items, if I would say, is LF, which we create on a PF. So LF without any key is a view, and LF with key is an index. So this is the main difference between these two. So view is LF with no key, and index is LF with key. So and it means index is an access path, and it's just view is just the representation of the data which resides in the table. So it may be full data, it may be full column data, all the columns data, it may be some columns data, it may be all columns some records, or it may be some columns all records, or so on. So this is the difference between view and the index. The next question is, what is lookup opcode in RPG? So basically, it's lookup is to search for an element in an array. So if we are searching for a particular value in the array, so we can search using the lookup opcode. So that's all the questions which we have covered here in this video. So that's all. Thank you.